Frame.
This is Piper's roadmap to success. Now, she's on what we call cabana, which is one of the things that we went over in a session. We're going to not allow her to be on the furniture is one of the rules that we're going to incorporate to provide her with a structure. I think in this case, the big problem is that she thought that she had the same authority as her humans, and in some capacity she was in charge of her humans. So I think that she was confused because she tried to do things to ward off visitors or people on walks or other dogs because she didn't think that her guardians I think her guardians provided her with so much attention and affection in rewarding some neediness that I think it created a situation where the dog felt that the humans are a little bit naive and might be taken advantage of by other people or dogs. And so she has been very proactive in terms of protecting them. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to try to demote her. We are going to demote her. We're not going to try. So she really has a beautiful spirit. When I first came in, I don't think that was aggression. I think it was more frustration and anxiety and wanting to meet me than it was territoriality or aggression. And she warmed up really quickly. So by adding in rules and structure and enforcing them consistently, she should be able to start to identify as more of a follower. And when she's a follower, she won't have as much stress on her plate because she's not responsible for us. And then she just go back to being a dog. So some of the rules we went over: no furniture for at least 30 days, so as long as problems going on. Having to sit before we let her in or out of a door. Not being within 7 feet of any humans who are eating. Another rule would be when the child is eating in the kitchen, she's not allowed on the dark wood in the kitchen. Or when the humans are preparing food in the kitchen, she's not allowed in there. We also want to look for ways to delay gratification. Once she learns to sit at the door to go in or out, then the next step would be maybe I open the door, but I have her on a leash, and she has to wait for the release word, or the yard or outside as a word to go outside. They do have a dog door in the house. I'd like to see the guardians go back to using the dog door, but we need to build up a good foundation first so that she thinks she's no longer in charge of security, and we can remove that pressure, which is the responsibility, which has resulted in pressure and which has resulted in stress. So those are some of the rules we're going to incorporate. We talked about petting with a purpose and passive training in one of the videos, so I won't go over that, but those are really, really important. It's super duper easy, but those will have a huge impact on her if the guardians get in a habit of doing so. We also want to use those escalating consequences in the other video to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors, and make sure that we're doing that within 2 to 3 seconds of her, or we're doing it right away. Remember, you have a window of 2 to 3 seconds to reward or correct your dog. And anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're rewarding. Anything your dog is doing that you don't disagree with, you're giving 2 thumbs up to. So when we come home from work, if she's excited and we pet her, we're nurturing an unbalanced state of mind. Instead, ignore her. Tell her to sit once maybe, and if she doesn't sit, then just ignore her, walk around. As soon as she calms down, start reaching to pet her. If she starts wiggling, pull your arm back and continue. Keep on doing that until eventually when you come home, she stays quiet, sitting on the floor, and then you pet her. Now you're nurturing and rewarding a desired action or behavior. That's what petting with a purpose and passive training are all about. Let me see, what else? We went through a focus exercise. We did this off camera, or I think we did it on camera. So practice the focus exercise a minimum of at least once a day with both guardians, about 10 to 12 treats. But the more you practice it, the faster at it you'll get. And again, practice in easy situations and progress into more strenuous situations. Also practice that U-turn on walks. On walks, I'd like to use the martingale collar, which we just fitted her up with a special twist of the leash. We're going to make sure she's calm before we take her out on a walk. We're going to make sure that she follows the human goes out the door first. And then we're going to use the structured walk rules that we just went over off camera. Rule number 1, stay in your position next to. Do I want the dog on my left side, on the guardian's left side with her shoulder aligned with their hip? Rule number 2, we're going to keep our arm relaxed. We're not going to pull backwards ever. If we want to correct, it's a quick jerk up and then immediately relax the leash. We want only a fraction of a second of tension on the leash. If you pull the dog in position, they're guaranteed to pull against you, and that's the whole walk you're going to have. It's not going to be fun for either dog or man or woman. Rule number 3 is keeping your, or not letting the dog stop and sniff. They can sniff as they're going, and to say a dog can't sniff would be cruel. But on a structured walk, because a dog's nose controls 60% of their brain, if we let them stop and sniff, they're not going to listen to us. So make sure we continue walking. And if they lag and they stop, we're going to let this arm go dead and keep on walking. And eventually, when the leash gets taut, the leash will pull the dog with us. Never pull from behind. And then the 4th rule is, or 5th, depending on what the count is, no marking. She's a female and she doesn't seem to be a marker, but marking is a way of asserting leadership. And so we don't want her to do that because, again, we need to demote her so she identifies as being in a follower position. So those are the rules for a structured walk. Remember, we're gonna, anytime we have a dog that's nearby, we're gonna execute that U-turn, and we're gonna do something to increase the distance or block her line of sight to that dog, let the dog pass, and then keep going at it, keep going on our walk. Eventually, once we have the focus exercise down, if we see another dog coming, we can walk, take a turn, walk down the driveway a couple paces, be 6 or 10 feet away from the sidewalk, and then practice the focus exercise and let that dog pass. Eventually, when we're done it enough, we see the other dog, we just say focus, and the dog will walk looking up at us as we're walking, and you can pass the other dog without her even looking at the other dog. Dogs should meet by scent, not by sight. And a lot of dogs get in trouble because they see the other dog coming and they stare at it and it gets closer and closer and closer. And in this case, she thinks she needs to be the protector of the family. And so she wants to ward off the other dog to make sure that they don't take advantage of her humans. So that's why it's going to be really, really important for the guardians to practice the rules and structure that we went over to help her gravitate and adopt that follower's mindset. Now, since she likes to go to the window and bark at people, remember, there are times, the timing is going to be really important. So if we see somebody out the window and we see her going over towards it, don't wait for her to get all the way to the window and then start correcting her. When she's several feet away from the window, give her a hiss. If you get it with good timing, you'll stop her from getting to the window and starting the barking in the first place. A lot of people ask me how I stop a dog fight, and I say I don't know. So I always stop it from happening before it even starts, and that's the best preventative measure that you can use. Now, we use a lot of positive reinforcement in this, like cabana. We threw a treat on here. As soon as she touched it with her lips, we said the word cabana. So make sure anytime you're using a treat, it should touch the dog's lips or tongue first, and then hear the commands slightly after, like by slightly, I mean half a second after. Avoid repeating commands over and over. The more you repeat it, the less you mean it. The dog, and burning energy. Make sure we don't walk around the dog. We're going to walk through the dog. And if we ask the dog to do something and the dog doesn't do it, we're going to get up and follow the dog and follow through so the dog understands that when the human asks me to do it, they're willing to burn the energy to go get their way. And after a while, she'll just start doing things faster and faster because that's the only way that she's going to, because otherwise you're going to be on her butt. Let me see. Feeding time. I'd like to have the guardian eating before she feeds the dog. Now, if the guardian gets up really early in the morning and goes to work, she's probably not super hungry. So just grab a chip or a carrot or a cracker and eat it in 5 or more bites while there's food in her bowl, then give the dog permission to eat after. This way the dog is seeing the human in a more of a prestigious position, and that will help the dog with more respect the leadership a little bit better. Now, if she is barking at the window, again, we're going to hiss. If that doesn't work, we're going to get up and march over and put ourselves between her and the window and march her away. And then you're facing her and wait for her to settle down before you move away. The guardians asked me about guests arriving. What I saw in the first video was not aggression, it was more anxiety. So if you go if you're on doggoneproblems.com watching this video, the write-up, if you go click on dog training tips page, the write-up where you find this picture of Piper, if you look a couple posts down, you'll see a picture of a black Cocker Spaniel. That dog had some more aggressive issues, and I kind of have a video at the beginning where I talk about, and I show an approach on how you can approach the dog and make the dog feel more comfortable. And then I also, in the roadmap to success, I have a segment of that where I talk about what the humans can do to have guests come in and make it less confrontational for the dog. That dog was a lot more confrontational than she was. I think that in her case, once the guardians change the leader-follower dynamic by rules, boundaries, structure, and rewarding desired behaviors, that a lot of this behavior, territorial reactive behavior, is going to dissipate on its own. If not, the guardians can certainly give us a call back and we can coach them through claiming the area around the door and other exercises and techniques, but we covered a lot in 3 hours and I don't want to overwhelm them. Now, if the dog is reacting to people who are coming by the window a lot, there's certain times of the day, well, if we can rearrange our schedule to practice the focus exercise during that time of the day when a lot of people are going by, we're helping the dog practice a new behavior. I know this has been tough. It's hard for you to lay there and get all these tasty treats. I'm probably forgetting some other things, but the guardian, like any of my clients, can always call me. Texting me is going to be the fastest way to reach me, but please call me or text me right away. Don't wait. If you're not sure about how to do something, I want you to call me or text me right away rather than practicing something for a while and then having to maybe set up another session to fix those things. Usually I can help with a quick phone call without needing to have an in-home visit. I don't charge for phone calls. All right, well, that's going to do it for Piper's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.